I want to talk about addiction in this video because it's a topic that is really misunderstood and it's affecting so many people around the world. Now, let's start off with the definition of addiction. Addiction is using a substance or doing a certain activity chronically for a prolonged period of time, and knowing that despite having severe consequences and essentially hurting you. So let's start off, there's a lot to unpack there. Let's start off with the first part, which is chronic. Our bodies were never meant to do something over and over and over again. And the same thing. We love change. We love doing different things. Our brains aren't hardwired over many years of evolution to do the same thing. Even like a job, for example, it's physically impossible to do the same job all your life. And I know there's certain people that stay in jobs for 20, 30 years, but usually the tendency is to move around and do different things. And even if you are in the same company, the likelihood is you're going to either progress or do something different in your life. Now, when you do something for a long period of time, that's not good for your psyche, is it? It's not something that's recommended at all. And with the way our world is, so society has programmed us because of the economic benefit of big corporations and the economic benefit of certain businesses to indulge and consume things on a mass scale until basically you have no money. That's the whole premise, or keep you on a retaining as a retaining client to use certain things in the world, right? And that's not a bad thing. But with the way our world is moving and the way social media and the way people interact in our world, we have a tendency, and the way our personalities change over time, we have a tendency to essentially indulge in pleasures. And there's a lot of research into personalities and ADHD, and certain people are more addicted than other people. And that's why addiction is such a complex topic. It's a thing that not many people can get their head around, because it's genetic, it's contextual, it's based on potentially your health, how healthy you are, because certain people can consume things for a prolonged period of time, whereas that same thing, another person can't do that for a long period of time. Addiction has become a truly taboo topic. So it's something that people fail to understand because either they've not been in it or they don't want to understand it. And I feel like the more we become numb to addiction and what it truly is, the more we go further away from understanding it, the more we try to sort of, in a way, make things more normalized as well. So for example, alcohol. An addiction to alcohol is not the same as viewing something like an addiction to drugs, or addiction to pornography is not viewed the same as addiction to sugar, for example. Why is that? Because we all live a very secretive life, and for good reason as well. So a lot of things, it's an unspoken language where a lot of things aren't really spoken enough in depth with the right people as well. So if you don't have the right network, it's very hard to get out of an addiction. It becomes increasingly difficult because you don't have that therapy. You don't have that time to speak to somebody to um, to get somebody to really understand your situation and the context that you're in. Because you could be the most successful person, you could have essentially the world, but if you don't have that network and people around you and that good friendship group that can actually point out to you that when they think it's too much. And a lot of it is our problem. A lot of it is to do with how we have programmed our own life, how we have set up our own sort of boundaries in our life between friends and between family, which for a good reason, but it's not the best thing that's happened to us essentially. So take, for example, the same thing that I was talking about before, so an addiction to alcohol. If you have a friendship group, a certain friendship group that you drink with all the time, and they know you're going through an issue, and you're starting off with moderate sort of consumption. They know that you love to drink, but they're not going to tell you outright unless it's somebody who isn't afraid to hurt you. So that's where it's very important to have the right people around you. It's very important to have those friends that can support you and tell you when they think it's just too much, or when they can have a chat with you and be honest with you. I think that's so important. I think it's really important to understand yourself as well and be able to coherently tell another person about why you think you've got into an addiction, why you think your your brain works the way it does work. And it's so important to be grounded in yourself, to know who you truly are. And that comes into a lot of different things like your past, um, how you were brought up, your friendship groups. It goes into personalities. So understanding what your triggers are, understanding how you got there in the first place, really. Because I've always thought about this. I've always thought, isn't it, if somebody has an addiction, are they an addict for life? If you know what I mean. Were they born an addict? Now that's a very difficult question because, again, like I said before, it is a genetic thing, addiction. It's something that if you are predisposed to something from an early age, like for example, my dad's dad, so my granddad was an alcoholic. He died an alcoholic. So I know already that I have a predisposition to alcohol. So I'm going to be aware of that, and I'm going to know my limits. Yeah, I can get drunk one night and drink too much, but I'm not going to do that in a recurring way, and especially not to soothe myself in terms of making myself feel better in a difficult time. So I think it's very important to approach addiction in a very tailored way. So you cannot give advice to somebody, the same advice to one person that you would give to another person. And I've been to Gamblers Anonymous meetings where this has happened firsthand to me, where somebody does not understand my situation and gives me advice that is given to everybody. But I think in my head, you can't do that because of different personalities. You can't do that because of different contexts. And that's where people push others away. And that's where they start to realize that actually, I feel lonely right now because that other person didn't understand me, but he tried to overstep a boundary. And that could cause resentment, that could cause quite a distant feeling of being misunderstood. Because remember, as males, even as females, whichever gender you are, it's very hard to be in that situation where you are misunderstood and at the same time you don't realize why you are addicted to something. So I guess what I'm saying is you got to be grounded in yourself, understand who you are. You got to have a global sort of picture of it, a zoomed out picture of your situation, of the way society views it, and have you got the right constraints in your life and the right boundaries. And I think that's where a lot of people who don't have that right network, that's where they really struggle and they feel really misunderstood. And I think it's very important to have that understanding and realize that, yeah, nobody's going to save you. You can only save yourself. But the best thing you can do to yourself is understand first yourself and realize that other people do not have as much knowledge as you do about your own situation. So that's where I think where it becomes very important for somebody who is struggling with addiction. And again, understanding who you are. Another good advice I would give to anybody watching this is if you have certain hobbies and interests, it's always good to fill that time when you are trying to get off something by doing other things, by doing things that truly fulfills your soul. Because one thing I learned being at Gamblers Anonymous is that the time that you spent on that addiction, you need to substitute the time. So do something else that can become a healthy addiction. Because remember, there's unhealthy addictions and there's healthy addictions. And the likelihood is if you are in an addiction, you either have some sort of neurological condition, because it is a medical condition. If you look at the definition, a neurological condition, whether it's ADHD, whether it's some other social condition, mental condition, or whether it's just trauma, pure trauma, depending on how your brain works, I truly believe that substituting addictions is a very good way. Some people benefit from going cold turkey, some people really don't. So I guess it just comes down to how well you know yourself. So if you enjoyed this video and you got some benefit, please like it and share it. I would really appreciate that for my channel. Thank you guys.